Hey everybody, how's it going? So I thought it would be a great idea to create a little mini series for you guys, detailing how I go through a mix top to bottom, no BS, no cutting corners, no nothing. I want to show you guys everything that goes into making a mix from a live recording, particularly at my venue, but you can apply this same process to any live recording that you do at any venue and also any studio recording that you do. The same practice applies, the same techniques, the same way of doing things. The only difference is because it's live, I can't quantize, I can't correct, I can't pitch correct. I don't want to do anything that affects the live performance from the musicians. So the band whose set we're going to be mixing is Pyramada. They were in the recent video that I posted of the 4-band rock show. If you haven't seen that video yet, go check it out. I'll link it below, like here, wherever the hell the cards are, right here. And I'll also link it in the description below. They paid me to record their set and mix it, and I figured it would be a great way to show you I'd say a 5 or 6 video series about the process of mixing a set from top to bottom. So on today's video and this episode of this series, if you even want to call it that, we are going to go through analyzing the raw tracks, creating a raw mix, and maybe applying some correction EQ to at least get the mix in a ballpark of where I want it to be. So to do that, you need a DAW. So I'm going to switch over to the screen right here. I'm going to superimpose this camera on the bottom here. We are in Logic Pro, which is my DAW of choice, but you could do, again, the same process in any DAW that you want. I learned actually how to do this in Adobe Audition. So I have Adobe Audition loaded up right here. This is going to be recording our system audio, so I'm going to get that going right now because I want really high quality recording of the audio, and Adobe Audition is going to record everything that plays in the computer so you guys hear the mix as good as I hear it in the monitors, which, by the way, let me move my bottle of water out of the way. I am monitoring on a Focusrite Claret 8 Pre, and the monitors that I am listening on are Yamaha HS80Ms. Yamaha rebranded these monitors as HS8s, but these are the HS80Ms. They're a little bit older, and to me, they are incredible lie detector monitors. If you can get a mix to sound good on these things, you can get the mix to sound basically good anywhere that you play it. So let's get started. I have a blank project opened up in Logic, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in my audio tracks raw, and to emphasize the no bullshit clause of these videos, this is the first time I am actually hearing these tracks. This isn't some pre-planned scripted crap. If it is, I'd be speaking to the camera a whole lot better than I am. So this is the very first time that I am listening to this. So Logic by default, I have it set up to 48 kilohertz. But because the audio is recorded at 44.1, I'm just going to mix in 44.1. It's fine if you mix in 44.1. It's not the end of the world. All right, let's close this. First things first, while this is going, I'll wait for the analyzer to go in and create the waveforms. And in the meantime, let's take a look at the waveforms. So this is the drums. Actually, while that's loading, I'm going to rename my tracks and start organizing it. So kick. Stage right guitar. Stupid. Okay. Tracks are labeled. Now what I like to do with with a blank project, let me make the faders a little bit bigger, is I like to have my DAW buses routed and colorized. So because I don't have any overheads recording, I'm probably not going to edit the cymbals out of the vocals, because the vocal mics at Dingbats are so close to the cymbals that they naturally act as overheads. This is why I don't have a hi-hat mic. This is why I don't have any overheads by default at Dingbats. So I'm probably not going to be editing the cymbals out. And honestly, from the looks of how the tom channels look right here, I'm not going to have to edit the tom tracks. Normally, if there's a whole lot of cymbal bleed in a tom track, I just go in and manually just literally delete everything that's in between. So I'm not going to have to do that because the waveforms look amazing. So I'm very happy with how this looks so far. So this DI track is going to need to be brought up in gain because I think I may have screwed up during changeover, or someone must have pushed a button on the DI box that was used to track this. Someone must have, or it probably was me, accidentally flipped the switch to minus 15 dB, which is why I had a hard time hearing it during the actual set. So the gain is going to have to be raised up in this. Stage right vocal, I'm probably going to delete most of this because the bass player didn't use his mic a lot. And you can even hear it in the video. Again, it's going to be in the video description. At the very beginning of the set, you can faintly hear feedback going on in the stage, and that's because this mic, stage right vocal, was so hot with gain because the bass player admittedly is deaf. He couldn't hear the monitor, so I was literally cranking the monitor louder than I think I've ever cranked any monitor. So stage left vocal as well. I'm sorry, I meant stage left vocal. It's this channel right here, Vox stage left. So there is the bass player. So right here is the bass player saying something. So I may because he didn't speak that much, I may just delete the bleed right here, the extra cymbal bleed here, and just focus on keeping the center vocal carrying the cymbals, because look at that, there's a lot of cymbal bleed right here with the center vocal. So mixing this is going to actually be very tricky because I want the clarity in the vocal, but making clarity in the vocal usually means raising the top end a little bit, which means increasing the volume of the cymbals. So that's just going to have to be something that we deal with here. But this I can control, the stage left vocal, because the vocal stage right didn't really do that much. I think the guitar player's name was Onyx. He didn't sing that much here, so this will be very easy to take care of. Okay, so it looks like I got my waveforms all set. Let's label all these tracks by color. So I like to label my drum tracks blue. I like my bass track to be yellow. I like my guitar tracks to be green. Keyboards can be purple. And the vocals. So let's route now the drums to bus 1, which I will label drums. Bass, I'll route to another bus. Guitar, I'll route to bus 3. Keys, I'll route to bus 4. Vocals, bus 5. And I will route all of my instruments to an instrument bus. And then I will have these two routed to a master mix bus. So let me go over this again in case this confused any of you. So I route all my individual drum tracks to a drum bus. I route my bass to a bass bus. I routed my keys to a keys bus. I routed, Jesus, that's a guitar bus. I'm an idiot. Keys. I routed my vocals. And then I routed every instrument to an instrument bus. And then I routed everything to a mix bus. And I always put my mix buses red. Or in this case, Logic updated, so they look like they're orange to me, but whatever. Once I have everything routed, I want to create and save the project. And let's see, where can I route this? Raw project, Pyramid of Bats. Let's just label it mix. So now Logic is going to copy all the audio files and just put it there. Okay, now that I got everything, let's go into the middle of the set, which is where I was most confident with my mix at the during the show. And let's lower everything, and because I know this is going to be a little loud. Let me just make sure that Audition. Let me just make sure Audition's recording.
Your life.
This is the first set I'm actually mixing on the new house kit, so this is gonna work out all right because the toms sound pretty good. Let's see. Let's listen to how the bass sounds. That sounds super clean. Yeah, I'm very, very happy with how that sounds. Let's listen to stage right guitar, how that sounds. Stage right, that was their rhythm guitar player, Onyx. Hardly any cymbal bleed at all on that. This is a great recording. Yeah, that sounds great. And now let's hear the lead guitar player, guitar stage left, that would be Pete. A little more bleed from the snare and the cymbals, but that's manageable. Believe me, I've recorded far worse. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds really good. Yeah, I'm not gonna have a problem with the instruments. Let's go to a section where the keys are. Well, let's increase the gain on this right now. Make this a little. Let's go with 11 dB of gain. That's an insane amount to just add on, but yeah, it's not distorting. It doesn't sound like it's being affected at all, audio quality wise. Yeah, that's fine. Keys sound good. Now here's what I am dreading the most, which is Pete's vocal.
You take my pain away. Rain doesn't fall down. Just a dream. Because of you, it's with me. Walk away. Walk away.
I mean, the vocal came in actually pretty good. I might not have to do a lot of EQing with that, so we may have lucked out with this, guys. Very, very happy with this.
Walk away. Walk away.
Actually, the gain on this could be brought up just a little bit. Let's go to an even 4 dB gain.
Walk away, walk away.
Walk away. Yeah. Doing my best James Hetfield impression. Walk away, yeah.
Walk away, walk away, walk away, walk away.
Alright, so this gain can actually be brought down a little bit because that's a little much. Let's bring that down 3 dB gain. Okay, let's see.
Walk away!
Okay, so overall, this isn't that bad. I'm actually very happy with how this came out. Okay, so let's save what we got so far. And let's start building a mix. So rule number one, when I at least am mixing, I do not touch the instrument buses, the mix bus. I do not touch those faders until the final mastering phase. If I have to, I'll adjust. But I try to avoid moving that at all. And if I do move it, it's like 1, maybe 2 dB tops. So the very first thing that I add on any sort of mix is a multimeter. So this is actually one of the reasons why I love Logic so much. This plugin lives on my mix right here. And I love the fact that I have a gigantic monitor here, so the aspect ratio and the way that the program looks on a monitor, I can have this multimeter here, which is basically a frequency analyzer, and it can live right there the whole time. So I really just love having this. So I'm going to keep going into Audition to see if it's still working, and it is. Because the last thing I want is to go through this whole thing and find out that the system audio didn't record right. Because that would, oh my god, that would piss me off. Okay. So what this multimeter does is it measures the peak RMS. It measures how loud the mix is. It measures the LUFS. It measures the frequency analyzer, and it actually measures the left, right, middle channels. So this is a very, very useful plugin that I have living in my session on at all times. Because as this room is pretty dead, so and I've measured this room, and it's pretty decent for like a home studio. It's far from a pro level mixing room, where they were specifically built to withstand loud sound and loud mixes, but this sounds okay in here. I just like the reassurance of the frequency analyzer, because in some ways I naturally will sort of mix with my eyes if I can see the frequency analyzer. But again, this is just how I work. You can work however you want as long as you get the results you want. There are no rules to this. This is just how I work. So let's start building a mix. Let's pick a song that we can go with. You know what? Let's start with the beginning, because I don't see any drastic changes in volume, which would basically be my fault if there are any drastic changes in volume, because that would mean that I adjusted the gain knobs, which I didn't do. So that's good that I wasn't an amateur. Okay, let's bring everything down just a little bit. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is start with drums, and just right now I'm just going to go with the audio and build where I think everything should be sitting, and then we'll go from there. So let's just start with drums. Let's bring everything else down and go from there. Let's start with kick and snare. What I'm hitting on my interface here is a dim switch. Is a dim button, which basically lowers the monitor volume by like 6 dB, I think. It's just nice to hear something at loud volume and then hear it at quiet volume. It really like helps you like correct any decisions that you're making. Because what sounds good loud, the secret is you really want to listen to it low, so that if you hear everything crystal clear when it's low, that means when it's louder, it's going to sound great when it's loud. So right now I'm seeing how the tom volume is relating to the snare. And right now that right rack tom sounds okay to me. Let's find another area where there's some floor tom hits. There we go, right there. Damn, this drummer went Tom crazy. Good Lord almighty. Okay. Yeah, drums sound great. So let's start bringing in the bass, because I like to work from the low end up. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little hack that I like to do to blend in the kick and the bass, because this is one of the trickiest things to do when you're mixing rock and metal, is mixing the bass guitar to fit in with the kick. So what you really want to do is get the kick drum and on my multimeter here, this is measuring the RMS, which means in layman's terms, it's sort of the average volume of where the specific frequency range is. And I'm not saying this is a guaranteed hit all the time. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is this is a good starting point for you. What you do is find the fundamental frequency of the kick drum, which for kick drum, most of the time it's around 60 to 40, maybe 50 hertz. It's definitely around the 60 hertz. There's the fundamental frequency right there, just above 62 hertz. Perfect, some double kicks. So it's hovering right around -40 on this frequency analyzer. So what I like to do with that, now that I have that information, I'm going to aim to bring the bass guitar around -40. There you go. I can hear the bass clearly. I can hear the kick drum clearly. When I get to EQing and compression, I'm going to do what I talked about in my other video, where I like to roll off the bass around 60 hertz and let the kick drum have all the sub frequencies to have that, that gut punch kick drum sound. And I will take a little bit of 60 hertz from the bass guitar, boost a little bit in the kick, and a little more separation there. And finally, I'm going to have a sidechain compression on the bass guitar where it will dip about a dB and a half or so every time the kick drum hits. So combining all three of those, you will have a clear definition between the bass guitar and the kick drum, especially when we get to compression and I compress the bass guitar so it's not as dynamic, because you don't want a lot of dynamics in low end if you're in the bass guitar in rock and metal and punk. I'm sure in like maybe other music genres like reggae, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, maybe reggae, you want a dynamic bass because the bass guitar basically is the foundation of reggae music. But in hard rock, metal, punk rock, you want the bass to have like a nice, even, flat, low end tone. You don't want a lot of dynamics of the bass going up and down. So now that we got our low end and drums taken care of, let's listen to what we got with just the drums and just the bass. Let's go back to the beginning. So that sounds great to me. And for those of you that may be wondering, how loud is it in this room right now, and just play what I got. According to this, it's 80 dB in here when that plays. I highly doubt that because that's how much it said was a full mix of a band blasting at dingbats, where it was definitely a lot louder than it is in here. So, look, this is just an app on a phone. I probably should get a real, like, legit decibel meter, but I like to have the level. And this, okay, so this is a very good way to go about doing this. Mix at a volume where it is just a little bit above your natural projected speaking volume. So like if you're speaking in front of a crowd, you're talking at this volume, you want it a little bit louder than that, to the point where you can almost not hear your own voice over the music playing. That's ideally where you'd want to mix at when you're mixing at loud volume. But don't always mix at loud volume. Mix at low volumes as well. That's why I have the dim switch and the dim. That's why I have the dim button on my interface, and I also just turn down the monitor send knob. Mix at different volumes to hear the little subtle differences in your mixes, and you'll be good. So as I said that, let's listen to what we got at low volume. Let's go back to that area where there were a lot of tom fills. Where the hell was that? Yeah, here we go, right here. No. Now, I can hear the plucking of the bass clear as day, but I can't feel the bass. Like, I can't feel the low end from the subs in my monitors right now. So that's why you mix at a higher volume, so you can hear the bass. Because the way that sound works for the human ears, we hear the high-end frequencies up here at lower volume, and then you have to raise the volume to be able to hear the low end. So you need to have louder volume from your monitors in order to hear the low end accurately. But because you're blasting low end at louder volume, you need to have room correction in order to hear the low end clearly. Otherwise, the bass frequencies are just going to bounce on all over the walls and make your mix sound muddy. You're going to think that you have way too much low end, so you'll lower the bass to make it sound good in your untreated room. Meanwhile, see those black panels right there? Those are bass traps. So there is no low end that is escaping in this room. At least to normal, home studio standards. Again, like I said in the beginning of this, there are pro studios that are designed to handle sound mixing. This is obviously not one of those rooms, but I treated it enough to where I can get a pretty decent sounding mix, and that's why I have my frequency analyzer here, so I can visually see what my mix is doing. And I know that if the frequencies are operating a certain way on here, I know how it's going to sound in these speakers. Therefore, I know what it's going to sound like in my car when I inevitably test this in the car. So right now, I'm happy with how the drums and the bass sound. Let's start bringing in the guitars. And let's go back to the beginning of the song, because I know that song well because it's on their EP that I tracked another lifetime ago. It's called Just a Dream. Check it out on Spotify. Okay, so I don't know if you're watching my frequency analyzer, but the low end is a little bit above -40, and then you see it slope down just slightly, and then it peaks again around the 2 to 4K range, and then it slopes off again. That's what you want visually on a frequency analyzer. That's what you want to see. Because you naturally want your mix to have a little more low end in the frequency range here when you visually look at it on an analyzer like this. And then you don't want as much high end because, again, our ears hear the high end a lot more naturally and easily than the low end. We need more volume to be able to hear the low end clearly. So logically, you want a little more low end in your mixes so that when you hear the mix at low volume, you'll hear the bass clearly, and the high end is a little more quiet so that when you raise it up, the same effect, you'll hear it in proportion to the volume that you're playing it at. So that's what we're trying to do here. Okay, let's listen to that low. Yeah, that sounds great. I'm very, very happy. Yeah, that sounds awesome. So now let's bring in the keyboard. Yeah, this is sounding fantastic so far. Now comes the part that I am dreading, which is bringing in the vocals and all that cymbal bleed and all that crackling high end that's about to ruin whatever we got. Well, fingers crossed that it doesn't, but something tells me we're going to have our work cut out for us with this.
Senses pain and endless grief. The curtain goes up and people stare. You brighten those cloudy days. Waiting on, would it be better than this? And played it all so well. That's so unknown. These feelings.
Okay, so this song, I mean, you can, dude, these are vocals right here. And look, it's the same volume as the cymbal bleed. So, yeah, that's, we're not going to be able to do anything with that. So, when we get to compression, we'll see how it sounds. I'll have to have a multi-band compressor and see what I can do about taming that cymbal blade when I raise the volume up. Because in order to compress and hear that clearly over the mix, we have to raise that volume, or the overall average volume, which means the cymbal bleed is going to be amplified. Thankfully, his voice is naturally a little higher pitch, so he has a higher natural vocal tone, so this should be easy to EQ and work with. But that multi-band compressor, that's going to come in handy with this.
Just not sure why I feel unchanged by time. Images gone by, left off the dreams to see you through. It's all the same, illusions returning home when you're finally away. Walk away, walk away.
The good news is when I listen to this at a higher volume, I don't hear a lot of harshness from the cymbals, which, yes, that is something that you absolutely want, and I'm very happy that I don't hear a lot of sharpness from the cymbal bleed. Now, in order to help with that, if you look at all of this cymbal bleed here from stage left vocal mic that was only used for maybe 2 songs, all of that's going to have to be deleted, but we'll take care of that in the next step after this. So let's continue building our mix, and let's bring in the other vocals, which is apparently the only time that they all sing at the same time is during this song called Walk Away.
It's what you gave. Pain is the ransom you gladly paid.
I can already hear the harshness of the cymbals coming in with that. So yeah, we'll have to work with that.
It's what you gave. Pain is the ransom you gladly paid. Walk away, walk away. Walk away, no more heat, no more rage. Walk away, walk away, walk away. Walk away, walk away, walk away. No more heat, no more rage. Walk away, walk away, walk away.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. Let's listen to it a lot louder.
Walk away, walk away, walk away. No more heat, no more rage. Walk away, walk away, walk away. Walk away, walk away, walk away. No more heat, no more rage. Walk away.
Okay, so guys, I think we lucked out with this one. The cymbal bleed is definitely there, but it is not as present as I thought. And the performers, the vocals came in crystal clear because they were almost kissing the mic, which means they projected very loudly, which means I had to, which means there was a very good signal to noise ratio with this, or in layman's terms, loud vocal, quieter cymbal bleed. So I'm very happy with this. Now that we got a decent rough mix going, let's listen to a little bit of a whole song. So let's listen to the beginning of their first song. Well, first off, let me take off the repeat and the section player there. So much difference when the two side stage vocal mics are muted. So what a difference.
Long bones laying at my feet, senses pain and endless grief, deserving praise throughout this life. I'm in disbelief. Yeah, me too. Oh. Come back home, feeling low. This misery, pain is the best sheltered from what's doing me wrong. Got nowhere to run to. Got no one at home. Breaking down to pieces, breaking down in my heart, in my soul. Feeling lost, no control. She knows that my heart tears it apart. She's got what I crave, drive me to my grave. In my mind, in my heart, in my soul, feeling lost, no control.
I love the riff of this song. Like, this might be the song that I based the mix off of. Yeah. That's a headbanging riff. I like that. And right there, you may have heard it too, but that vocal sounded a little too loud. But it's better for the vocal to be a little louder to me, because I want that to be absolutely cut through everything. So I know with EQing we can lower the volume and like tweak it a little bit so it fits right in, but
lost my faith, lost my hope, I'm down and through. Then I saw you standing there, nothing to bear, under my skin, frustration with us, breaking down to nothing at all, breaking down to pieces, breaking down to losing it all.
You heard that. There's feedback. Let's see what mic was causing that feedback. Now that I just heard it, let's go feedback hunting, shall we? It's the center vocal. So let's take care of that problem right now. So there is none of that feedbacking. Yep, there's that feedback. Sorry. Let's take care of that for every vocal.
shouldn't feel.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to time align the drums. And what do I mean by that? I mean that in the drum tracks, we're going to highlight the transients, we're going to base it around the snare drum, and we're going to time align every other drum so everything is in phase. Because as you know, if something is out of phase or there is phase cancellation of any type in a sound source, it just ruins the sound. That's why when you mic the top of a snare and the bottom of the snare, I know this looks very awkward, you flip the phase of the bottom snare mic. And that way the snare just sounds so much more open and has a much better tone. So here's what we're going to do. This is, we're going to use our very first plugins of this session. So what I like to use is, where the hell is it? Sound Radix Auto Align Mono. So I want to send my snare and have that be the source. Okay, let's find an area where the toms are all being striked. How about right here? Okay, I stand corrected. Let's go to this area. Okay, I'm sending that. And now we're going to have the right rack tom. Now receive auto align and receive channel 1. And what I'm doing is I'm telling auto align to to push forward or push back the signal of the rack tom by samples to align perfectly with the snare and to detect whether it has a better tone or not if the phase is flipped. Click detect and let it work. Okay, so it moved it back 35 samples. It did not reverse the phase. So let's listen to it without it. And now let's listen to it with it. The rack tom, I hear it clearer in the audio. Like, it sounds louder and it's more full. I didn't change the VU meter. I didn't touch anything. All I did was align the drum with auto align. So again, this is without it. And this is it with it. Done. Now we're going to repeat the same thing to the other rack toms now. And let's have the window be here and here. Receive 1. Detect, let it go. Okay, so this decided to move the right rack tom over positive 122 samples, and it flipped the phase. So let's see what that effect does. Let's listen to it without. Now let's listen to it with it on. Again, I don't know about you, but I hear a much fuller, deeper sounding rack tom. Let's give it a little more space. Let's listen to it with it off again. On. Off. On. To me, I hear more of the initial tone of the tom better. To me, at least. I think that sounds great. Now let's go to where the floor tom is played a lot. Again, we're going to repeat the same step here. Auto align, mono, receive one, solo the floor tom, detect, let it cook. Let's try it again because I adjusted the threshold. So it thinks it moved it back minus 143 samples. So let's be the judge of it. Let's test it without. With. I hear an immediate more clarity with the snappiness of the tom. Let's try another area where there are a traditional tom fill. So here we go. It's without it, and here's with. I think that sounds great. Let's see what we got so far. Now let's listen to this area here where the drummer's just going berserk with tom fills. And now let's be the ultimate judge of this. So here are the tom tracks without auto align on. And here are the tom tracks with auto align on. To me, I hear more of the natural, lower thud from the toms. So to me, that's a win. Without auto line on, I still hear the transient and the high end, the snappiness of the tom, but I don't hear the full tone of the tom. So I think that's great. I think we got it. Save what we got. And now let's bring everything in. Let's listen to that part again but without auto align. Now let's listen to it again with auto align on. Yeah, I instantly hear all of the thud of the toms. I hear the full tone of the toms, so this is great. Now the final step, let's get the kick drum on auto align. Let's have it receive the signal from the snare. Oh my God, yeah, there we go. Now the kick sounds a little more clear and full. So let's listen to this tom part, the end of this song right here, one more time. Just the drums, and now let's have it without auto align. With auto align. Without. With. Night and day difference. If you're not listening to this on good headphones or a good pair of speakers, you won't hear the subtle difference. If you're just listening to it on your phone, which I know most of you are just watching this on your phone, you can't hear it on your phone speakers. So put some headphones on and go back and rewind this video. But those of you who are listening on good headphones and good speakers, you just heard the difference that I did. So that is a win-win. So now that we got the drums auto-aligned and everything's perfect, let's start carving out some EQ that we absolutely do not want.
Still.
And right away, let's go on the guitars, because the guitars are heart and soul of rock and metal. Let's start with stage right guitar. Picked a hell of a time to refresh my subscription. Here's the part where your ears are gonna hurt. Just to forewarn you. I'm about to go pain frequency hunting. So get ready to hear some really harsh frequencies. Okay, I didn't talk for a while, but you saw and heard everything that I was doing with those guitars. So I eliminated what I call the pain frequencies. I took off a high pass and a low pass filter. I like using the infinity EQ to make precision EQ reductions and put my high and low pass filter in. I just like how this EQ works. And then I like to use the analog modded EQs to make any boosts, to add that warm saturation when I get to the next phase of mixing the guitars. But right now I think the guitars sound great where they are. They just need a little more warmth, and we'll add that with the virtual mix rack. So I think where I want to continue now with EQing is the bass guitar. Really won't have to do that much reduction with the bass guitar because I think the bass sounds excellent where it is. But let's see if we can improve on it. Yeah, like I said, there was nothing to do with the bass guitar. Let's see, where else can we go? Let's get the kick EQ'd. Let's start EQing drums, because I know you guys probably like to hear the sound of a nicely mixed drum kit. Vocals I'm going to do last because I have to rely on that cymbal bleed to fill out the super top end, so I'll do vocals last. Let's start EQing drums. I always like adding virtual tape machine to every single one of my tracks because digital recordings, while they are very clear, the downside is they're very clear. I like the sound of analog saturation. So I think that just like adds just a tiny hint of analog sound to a digital signal. And let's go with the virtual mix rack. Let me start showing you guys what I do to EQ drums. I was blind for a second. I didn't know where it was. While that loads. By the way, any Logic users out there, Slate hasn't updated all their plugins to be compatible with Apple Silicon yet. So I have to use Logic Rosetta, which just makes loading these plugins a lot more time consuming. Like you just saw it now, it just takes forever to load. I don't know if anyone else has that same issue, but for some reason it doesn't work yet on Apple Silicon. It crashes. Not all the Slate plugins work. So we have to use Rosetta. Let's see. What do I want to add? Well, first off, the channel. Okay, so I basically just took it a step further and started compressing the drums. So I think I'm just going to go for it. We'll stop at the cutoff after I do some basic EQ and compression on the drums, and we'll call it a night after that. Because my ears are starting to get a little fatigued here, so I can sense that my ears are not going to be able to keep up a little bit longer. So I'll do the snare and the toms, and we'll call it a day after that. I may not be able to put a noise gate on this snare, so that might cause a little bit of an issue with the top end, but we'll see. Okay, so it looks like I may have to edit a little bit of the snare track here. By the way, secret, top tip, if you have the Slate plugin package, use the FG Bomber to compress your snare instead of any of the other compressors. To me, this will just give you just like the big old. I'm talking Rikishi from WWE's ass fat. Okay, like this is Yokozuna level fatness that the snare is gonna get. So do your EQs, get your snare tone wise where you'd want it, and then just put the FG Bomber on it. Thank me in the morning because that just sounds so good on a snare drum. Listen to how just more full and in your face that snare drum is. Man, I love that. That's what that is. Okay, I thought that was just an insane amount of resonance in the tone. No, that's the frequency from the other rack tom bleeding into that mic. Okay, I thought I was going crazy for a minute. All right, noise gate. I think we got a very good spot where we are with the toms. All right, so let's review with what we did so far in this first session. So we got the rough mix down pat. We're good with that. For the guitar, we put some reduction EQ. We cut a couple pain frequencies out, and we just kind of sculpted the guitars where I want them to go. Cleaned that up a little bit. And we did a lot of work with drums tonight. So let me load up all of my drum plugins and what I did with them. So let's start with the kick in here. We got everything starts off with a channel insert and a noise gate. I got some sculpting EQ with the kick, and I love this lift, this high and low lift. This basically is just a master, hey, let's make this a little sharper, let's make this a little beefier, and I compressed the kick. That's the kick drum. The snare. Channel insert, noise gate, EQ, and instead of an ordinary compressor, I love using the FG Bomber. You put it on the fat setting, you put the intensity at 50%, and then you dial the drive in until it is in the center where that bomb is, and you're done compressing snare. It adds so much more punch and like the puzz and then the pa of the snare. Like it just punches you right in the gut, and that snare sounds so good right now. The toms are basically all exactly the same since they are all from the same drum kit. And they're all tuned to the same pitch according to their drum size. So basically, I just copy and pasted everything I did on the one rack tom, and I copy and pasted it to everything else, just adjusting the EQ where I need to, and adjusting the noise gate where I needed to, and it sounds great. So let's take one final listen of where we are with everything off, and then I'll put everything back on. That's raw with nothing done to it. I mean, you immediately just feel the drums just coming at you. And I'm going to have to adjust and, tweak the noise gates on the toms because it's not acting properly the way I want it to. it's acting a little too aggressive in some areas, and then when I lighten it up, it just doesn't work at all. So I'm going to have to finagle that noise gate on the toms a little bit. So that will be something that I do not on camera, because I mean, I'm already telling you what I'm going to do with it, and I'll show you the results of what I do with it afterward. So I think this is a good spot to call it a day for this session. Thank you guys for watching. Let me save my progress. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in episode 2 of this series. Peace.